Friends, in our previous study meet, we explored the names Punarvasu, Upendra, and Vamana. In studying Punarvasu, we had discussed the notion of time-bound and timeless entities. Also was the concept of how logic forms a formidable tool in rationality and science. Logic, too, is accepted to have its coefficients in time. So logic that is in itself time-bound will come short in measuring such a timeless entity, and hence cannot and will not accept the concept of Punarvasu or to reincarnate. To appreciate the limited capacity of measuring something expansive, we took appreciation to the artistic representation of the little kids who can only measure as much as they touch and feel and nothing beyond. Such reincarnation we had reasoned as a parallax error caused by the point of view. The point of view of what is reality, the timeless entity or the time-bound entity. For today, we will study the next three names by using the insights and ideas that we have derived from our previous study meeting. For today, we will pick the names Praamshu, one whose body attained great height or one of a huge body. Amogha, one whose actions are never in vain. Suchih, one who is always pure and who purifies. For today's study, the names comes in Upendra Vamana Praamshu Amogha Shuchirurjitaha Atindra Sangraha Sargo Dhritatma Niyamo Yamaha. So we pick Praamshu. Friends, we study today Praamshu, one who has an expansive body. Let us approach to study this name by taking help from an earlier shloka that we had studied, the shloka from Purusha Sukta. There, in the Purusha Sukta, we see a shloka that goes like so. Padosya vishva bhutani tripadasyam ratam divi. A quarter of the reality is manifested as the universe. The rest is all beyond manifestation and is immortal. Now, what do we see in this Purusha Sukta shloka? We see here the reference to a reality that is so expansive that what is palpable to us is only a quarter of itself. The rest of its expansiveness is beyond our grasps. This, when seen in the illustration of the painting we have borrowed from our Sahapati or classmate, we can see that what is measured by those little boys in this picture is only that which their sense organs can perceive. The ones that the little boys are able to touch and feel. The rest though exists, is beyond their capacities to be aware or their capacities to measure. So, the claim made here is the recognition of a reality that is behind the manifested universe. A reality that is more expansive than the universe as we perceive it. That entity which is both the effect and the cause of all things manifested in this universe. That entity which is both the cause and effect is the claim in this Purusha Sukta sloka. Such similar is often quoted to have been said by Einstein. There is no place in this new kind of physics, both for the field and matter, for the field is the only reality. So the argument here is that particles or matter come and go. That is, they are mortal. However, the reality is that field which always remains, that is, it's immortal. And such is what makes the statement, the field alone is the reality. Friends, we are studying the name Praamshu, or one who is expansive or huge. In that line of expansiveness, we see the claim put forth by the Purusha Sukta that reality is so very expansive that only 1/4 of which has manifested into physical reality. We also see in the voice of Einstein that when it comes to reality, the field alone is real and not the matter. Our study group has adopted the golden path in our study approach. A golden path which is a fair amalgamation of bhakti or faith, into which we look to bring an intense degree of rationality, of questioning, with an only intent to fortify the faith that our hearts have already spoken. In such attempts of fortification, we have relied on great minds and their ideas. Today, we will continue to derive from those magnanimous personalities. These men and women are heroes in their own domain. They stand head and shoulder taller than all around them. Now, such heroes and marvelous minds come in touch with this reality. And what do those scientific and rational minds say of those experiences? I paraphrase here Werner Heisenberg's statement. The 19th century science developed a framework for its study that was based on time, space, matter, and causality, which is cause and effect. Matter here was the primary reality. The concept of reality applied to the things or events that we could perceive by our senses or that could be observed by means of the refined tools that technical sciences had provided. Friends, Matter here was the primary reality. Matter here was the primary reality. Matter here was the primary reality. Friends, this framework supported the crusade and conquest of science into this material world for over 300 years. Science named this framework the Newtonian framework. Logic became the primary artillery for science in its crusade of the material world. With this weapon of logic, science danced around this Newtonian framework. For those centuries, it extracted one answer after another in its conquest of the material world. But then, towards the end of the 19th century, came the atomic world, and from there on, the quantum and relativity theories accelerated. This led to the breakdown of that empire built around the Newtonian framework. Friends, we had tabled the argument in our earlier study that logic is time-bound. Logic is time-bound. The 19th century discoveries stood testimonial to that statement, as those framework of Newtonian physics and its artillery of logic completely broke down in the light of those new discoveries. This discovery transformed from the earlier notion of matter is the primary reality to that of what Einstein stated as field is the only reality. Field is the only reality. Field is the only reality. And what is this field? It is that force behind the whole manifested universe. It, according to Purusha Sukta, is only 1/4 of the reality. Friends, we are studying today the name Praamshu, one who is expansive, and in understanding that, we have taken here the support of science in appreciating what is reality. We learn through the findings from the atomic world and the learnings of Einstein that field alone is true. The field that is behind the material universe. The field that is both the cause and also the effect, and that field is so expansive that only 1/4 of its capacity is the manifested universe. Friends, earlier in studying the name Tvashtha, we took the opposite. We took the opposite where we learn that he is in a contracted form. Many here will be intrigued of how at one time that Narayana, who is the force behind everything, is both expanding as in Praamshu and contracted as in Tvashtha. To appreciate those contradictions and the significance of both those forms and names, let us borrow the sloka from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 7 and 8. As always, I shall say the words and pause where possible. You can join in to recite this Bhagavad Gita shloka from chapter 9, and we'll do 2 shlokas, shloka 7 and 8. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punasthani kalpadau visrajamyaham prakritim swamavashtabhya visrajami punah punaha. Bhutagramamimam kritsnam avasham prakritervashat sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yamti mamikam kalpakshaye punasthani kalpadau visrajamyaham prakritim swamavashtabhya visrajami punaha bhutagramamimam kritsnam avasham prakritervashat. At the end of one kalpa, all living beings merge into my primordial material energy. At the beginning of the next creation, O son of Kunti, I manifest them again. Presiding over my material energy, I generate these myriad forms again and again in accordance with the force of their natures. Friends, now how does this formation of material world and its dissolution occur again and again? We had studied that in our earlier study in the shloka of 12 from chapter 7. From chapter 7, the shloka number 12 went as so. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasa tamasacchaye matta eveti tam vidhi natvam teshu te mai. The 3 modulation of the Narayana energy are identified here as sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. When they are in perfect state of equilibrium, there is no manifestation. All we have is the pure energy, an energy that is not expended but eternal. So also we see in some of the orthodox homes where they recite the shloka, Achyutaya Anantaya Govindaya Namaha. Achyutaya Anantaya Govindaya Namaha. Achyutaya Anantaya Govindaya Namaha, which is Achyuta, the pure energy, Ananta, the infinite and the non-consumed energy, and Govinda, the manifestation of that energy into formations that are sense perceivable, as we had seen Heisenberg mention. Friends, so we take recognition from these Bhagavad Gita verses that the manifestation as well as the dissolution is the very nature of the Narayana energy, where all things emanate from there, the Praamshu name of expanding, and all things dissolves as well into it, the Tvashtha are going back into primordial form. Friends, let us now cover the slides for the names that we have picked for our study today. Praamshu, Amogha, and Suchih. Praamshu, one whose body attained great heights. Praamshu means one of huge body. Lord Vishnu appeared as Vamana, looking very small and dwarfish to start with in the Vamana Avatara. Starting with a small body, Vamana then expanded himself instantly to occupy the entire universe. That is why he is called Praamshu. Amogha, one whose actions are never in vain. Mogha means waste. Amogha is just opposite of that which is purposeful. Today's action decide tomorrow's results. We are all creators of our own history. If one does evil things today, he is bound to experience sorrow some time later, even if he happens to be a good person at that point in time. Every action must bear its fruits. This is inevitable and inescapable. None of the actions of Lord Vishnu is ever in vain. Every one of his actions, without expectation, is logical and purposeful. Suchih, one who is always pure and who purifies. Suchih means purity. The Lord is Bhutatma. He cannot be touched by impurities. He is above the qualities of nature. He is like the sun. The sun never gets contaminated even while shining over open sewerage. The Lord never gets contaminated even while shining in the hearts of evil-minded person. He is above evil and above good too. Friends, as we conclude for today, we took understanding of the name Praamshu, the expansiveness of the Lord. In appreciating that, we took support of the Newtonian framework that helped science in its conquest of the material world. We saw how logic collapsed to the test of time as new discoveries in science unraveled the new world of quantum physics. These new discoveries went on to negate the Newtonian framework of matter is the only reality. 2. A new recognition that field alone being the only reality. The field was the force behind all the manifested universe, and it has manifested only 1/4 of its expansiveness. We also borrowed from chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita and appreciated that the manifested universe is not just expanding but also contracting in its nature, and that it is very cyclical in nature. Friends, let us conclude this with one more sloka that we have recited before from chapter 4, sloka number 24. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmajnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. All things have come forth from Brahman. All things exist in Brahman. All things will merge into that Brahman. With that, let us go to our meditation and experience the joy in that Brahman that exists in all of us.